So, welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time within 30 minutes so that you get to cover your current affairs quickly, not spending your entire day just reading the newspaper. Now, just spending these 30 minutes watching this lecture would be job half done because just after watching this lecture, you need to revise it as well. Revision helps in consolidating these current affairs in your memory. Otherwise, you'll quickly forget them. Now, you can revise these current affairs from the notes provided by us, and these notes shall be shared on our Telegram platform. The link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section just below this video. Okay, so let's begin today's session, but first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. So, topic number 1 is the conclusion of India-UK free trade deal. So, India and United Kingdom, that is Britain, have signed a free trade agreement. Now, what is the significance of this free trade agreement? What are the key provisions of this free trade agreement? And what advantages would accrue to both countries? Because of this free trade agreement, we'll talk about this. Then recently, India has called back its executive director in IMF. Okay, back. Basically, there were some allegations, there were some issues, though the reason has not been specified by the Indian government. But India's executive director in IMF, Mr. Subramanian, he was also the chief economic advisor beforehand. He was recalled back, and India is going to send some other person to serve as executive director in IMF. So the question is, for us UPSC aspirants, we don't need to get into why he was called back. We need to get into, as UPSC aspirants, what are executive directors? Okay, what is the appointment procedure and whatnot? Okay, so this. Then we'll talk about another operation, another security operation that is going on in Chhattisgarh against left-wing extremists, okay, Naxals, Maoists, and that is called Mission Sankalp. So we'll talk about Mission Sankalp. Then recently, Department of Telecommunication has come out with guidelines for satellite communication. As you all know, satellite-based internet is being announced in India. Elon Musk's company Starlink, okay, Amazon's Cooper, these provide satellite-based internet. So India has prepared, Department of Telecommunication has basically prepared some guidelines for these satellite communication-based companies. So what are these guidelines? We'll talk about this. And in the end, we'll talk about civil defense drills. Recently, in the wake of tense situation between India and Pakistan, well, India has said, or the government of India has said, or basically ordered the district authorities to perform these civil defense drills. Okay, they were performed on 7th of May. They are being performed on 8th and 9th of May as well. So what are these civil defense drills and what is the legal backing? Okay, under which law these civil defense drills come? We'll talk about this. Okay, so these are the 5 topics that we shall zero in our attention on. So let's start discussing them one by one. Starting with topic number 1, that is India-UK free trade deal. Okay, look, countries trade amongst themselves. Okay, countries do a lot of import-export amongst themselves. Okay, now the thing is that let's suppose India and UK do trade. Okay, now the thing is that any good that comes from UK, well, it is imported in India. Okay, any good that is imported in India from UK, India charges a tax on it. Okay, and that is known as import duty or customs duty. Clear? Now, the higher this customs duty, the more expensive this UK product will be in India, and and it will be at a more disadvantageous position. Okay, because if it is expensive in India, then people won't buy it, and the reason for its high price is customs duty charged on that good, right? Therefore, UK wants that India should lower its customs duty on most of its goods so that these goods from UK get good market access in India. More and more people buy UK based goods, and trade happens between the two countries. Trade flourishes between the two countries. Plus, UK companies also gain a lot because of these exports. And this similar demand is put forward by India also. India also wants less customs duty in UK so that its products can also be sold in UK market, right? At a cheap price. So basically, if both these countries decide to lower their customs duty, okay, then trade between the two countries would flourish and both countries would stand to benefit. Okay. Now, this customs duty or import duty is known as tariff barriers, or this duty is known as tariffs. And when these duties are high, it is known as tariff barriers. Now, if both countries want trade to flourish between them, then these countries sign a agreement. Under that agreement, both countries decide to reduce custom duty or tariff barriers on goods, on services, and most of the times they also talk about, or this agreement also covers investments in each other countries also. Okay. Now, recently, India and UK signed a free trade deal. Now, this would not only benefit UK because the companies in UK would be able to sell or would get better market access in India. It would also give India good access to UK markets. Okay, so recently both these countries concluded free trade agreement. So India and UK inked the free trade agreement, bringing to an end to around 3 years of negotiations. Okay, the timing of the deal, signed by world's fifth, that is India, and sixth largest economy, sixth largest is UK, respectively, is significant because of the global trade suffering due to tariff wars. As you all know, because of Donald Trump's belligerent policy of tariff barriers, okay, tariff policy, global trade has suffered. Therefore, countries are signing free trade agreements amongst themselves so as to save themselves from these tariffs by USA or tariff wars. Clear? So that is the case. Now, what is a free trade agreement? I have explained to you. These are arrangements between two or more countries or trading blocs that primarily agree to reduce or eliminate custom tariffs and non-tariff barriers on substantial trade between them. Now, this entire free trade agreement can include trade and investment. Okay, so it's not just trade of goods and services, it can also be investment also. And both goods and services are covered under it. Clear? Now, the benefits are, well, it boosts trade, it boosts investment flows, and it also gives more choice to the consumers, more choice to Indian consumers because now they can buy British goods, and more choice to British consumers because now they have a chance to buy, well, Indian goods. Clear? Now, India has FTAs and other types of trade agreements with over 50 individual countries and trade blocs like European Union, ASEAN, okay, trade blocs. Clear? And individual countries as well. Now, as far as India-UK Free Trade Agreement is concerned, what are the key features? First of all, it is basically argued by the British government that this would give a boost to bilateral trade between the two countries. India-UK bilateral trade, which is currently at 42.6 billion pounds, okay, is going to increase significantly. Okay. Mind you, remember this, that as far as trade between India and UK is concerned, UK runs a trade deficit and India runs a trade surplus with UK, which means that India exports more goods than it imports from UK. Okay. Now, this would, India basically has decided under this agreement to reduce tariff barriers on British gin, whiskey, cosmetics, aerospace, lamb, medical devices, automotive, salmon, electric machinery, and whatnot. Okay. Now, in return, UK has granted preferential access to Indian services. And how has UK granted access to Indian services? Well, Indian service providers would get easy visas to travel to UK, easy work visas. So, Indian workers will also see an increased quota to work in UK in certain sectors. Clear? This trade agreement has a strategic significance. India was Britain's 11th largest trading partner last year. As per UK, the deal was the biggest and most economically significant bilateral trade agreement it had signed since Brexit. So Britain says that after Brexit, after Britain decided to get out of European Union, this free trade agreement with India is its most significant agreement. Clear? Now, what are the benefits of this agreement to both countries? First of all, UK will get preferential market access to India because now tariff barriers are reduced. Plus, UK will be able to invest more in India. Okay. And UK wants to invest more in India because earlier UK had invested a lot in China. But because this over dependence on China has a lot of vulnerabilities, that's why countries or companies are following China +1 strategy to reduce their over dependence on China, and they will set up their factories in India. So this would be the case. Then India also needed regional partners. India also needed trade partners. Okay, because India is also suffering from these tariff wars because of Donald Trump. So India also needed a trade partner. Plus, under this agreement, UK won't charge carbon tax on imports from India, which European Union might, and more Indians will be able to get easy work visas in UK. Clear? So these are some of the preliminary benefits that experts have called out. Okay. That's all you need to know as far as this topic is concerned. And now let's quickly shift to news item number 2, IMF's executive directors. So India's nominee in the IMF's executive board. So IMF has an executive board. Okay. In this executive board is responsible for day-to-day operations of IMF. Okay. So the day-to-day operations of IMF are handled by this executive board. Now this executive board has a managing director and 24 executive directors. Okay. Now from India, Krishnamurthy V. Subramaniam was appointed as an executive director in IMF. Clear? So some countries have a quota, or countries nominate their own executive directors to IMF. Okay. I'll explain the entire situation. But from India, Krishnamurthy V. Subramaniam was appointed as executive director in IMF's executive board from India. Okay, his term was for 3 years. He was appointed in 2022, and 6 months were left before his retirement from this executive board. But India decided to call him back, and India has said that they will send a new director. Clear? Now, clearly there are some problems, but the government has decided not to officially comment or not to officially cite the reasons for calling him back. By the way, what you need to remember is that executive director from India is appointed by Appointments Committee of Cabinet. There are various cabinet committees: Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs. Similarly, there is Appointments Committee. So Appointments Committees appoints an executive director from India and sends him to executive board. Clear? Now, what is executive board? So as per IMF, the executive board is responsible for conducting day-to-day business, like I told you. It is composed of 25 executive directors, basically one managing director and 24 executive directors, who are elected by member countries or group of countries, and the managing director who serves as its chairman. Okay. The board is responsible for IMF's financing to help member countries address temporary balance of payment problems. That is different. Okay, they take day-to-day decisions, daily decisions. Now, what is the appointment process? Clear? So each of the 25 executive directors on the executive board represent a specific constituency. Okay. Now, what is that constituency? So, for example, there is a 4-country constituency which includes India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Bhutan. So every 3 years, these 4 countries will send one executive director to IMF board. Generally, that executive director goes from India because India is the dominant country, but it can go from anywhere. So India is part of this 4-country constituency, and each constituency sends an executive director. Okay. Now, these 4 countries decide which country will send its executive director. Okay. Now, these executive directors are elected by the governors, like RBI governor, representing their respective constituency countries. Okay. Now, the voting power of each executive director is dependent upon that country's quota. So, India has some quota in IMF. Similarly, many other countries have some quota, right? So, the voting power of Indian ED will depend on their quota. These executive directors serve 3-year terms, while the managing director term is renewable for 5 years. That's all you need to know. Now let's shift to third topic, which is Mission Sankalp, another security operation in central India. In April 2025, the Indian government launched Mission Sankalp, a massive anti-Naxal operation in Karegutta Hills on the Chhattisgarh-Telangana border, aiming to dismantle the last major bastion of CPI Maoists, basically Naxals in Bastar. Now, this is seen as a step towards Now, Union Home Minister had basically demarcated or basically said that India has a goal of making itself free of Naxalism, left-wing extremism by March 2026. Okay, so by March 2026, India aims to become Naxal free. So this operation is basically a step towards that. Now, which security forces are involved in this operation? CRPF, Central Reserve Police Force, and its battalion called Cobra Battalion, Commando Battalion for Resolute Action, District Reserve Guard, Bastar Fighters, Special Task Force, and State Police, Chhattisgarh State Police. Clear? Now, this operation is going on in Karegutta Hills. It is argued that this is the last known hideout of Naxals. Everywhere else, Naxals have been almost eliminated. This is their last stronghold. Okay. Now, why did Naxals decide to make this area as their stronghold? Surely this geography has some special features. So, as you can see over here in this picture, these are Karegutta Hills. They are about 500 meters high. So, quite high hills. Karegutta Hills extend 25 to 50 km with waterfalls, caves, narrow valleys at Chhattisgarh-Telangana border. They are also known as Black Hills. Okay. The inhospitable terrain makes these hills a perfect hideout for Maoists because it is very difficult to fight these Maoists in this terrain. It is quite inhospitable. Okay. The infamous Black Hills of Karegutta are known Maoist hideouts. Clear? Now, what is the significance of Mission Sankalp? First of all, we will be able to eliminate People's Liberation Guerrilla Army, Battalion 1. This is from where basically these are Naxals, okay? This would be a resolute action against Naxalism. Government's goal of eliminating Naxalism by March 2026. And once this area is free from Naxalism, then government can focus on socio-economic development of the tribals over here. Okay, that's it. Now let's move forward to fourth news item, which is rules for satellite communication. So Department of Telecommunication has released guidelines for satellite communication companies which are to operate in India. This development comes as Elon Musk's Starlink company undergoes security clearance for offering its services in the country. So Elon Musk is ready, his company Starlink, that provides satellite-based internet. Satellite-based internet is also satellite communication. So before Starlink starts giving its services, satellite internet-based services to India, well, Indian government is basically auditing this company for security reasons. And security clearance once given, then this company would be able to operate in India. Now, already there are many satellite-based companies, satellite internet-based companies, okay? Elon Musk Starlink, Jeff Bezos, Amazon's Cooper, Eutelsat's OneWeb. And these companies have basically done deals with Indian companies. So they have partnerships with Indian companies like Jio, Airtel. So they will provide these satellite-based internet services through these companies. Okay. Now, before these companies become operational, well, Government of India, Department of Telecommunication to be specific, has released some guidelines. Already, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India is basically finalizing rules for allocating satellite spectrum to these companies. Clear? Now, what are these guidelines? Some of the key features of these guidelines are as following. First of all, government has asked these companies, okay, these companies have to submit 5-year plan, manufacturing plan. And in that 5-year manufacturing plan, they have to specify that within 5 years, all the hardware, ground equipment for satellite-based internet, okay, will have 20% Indian products, 20% Indian components, okay. So they have to reach this 20% indigenization within 5 years. For that, they have to submit a plan. Now, the reason for this is because India wants to make hardware manufacturing, okay, or India wants to become a hardware manufacturing hub. India wants to promote its manufacturing sector. So that is why this is the reason. Then, whatever data would be collected by these companies from Indians, because internet would be used by Indians using their services, that data has to be stored in India. This is known as data localization. These foreign companies cannot take Indians' data abroad. They have to store that in India. Clear? Plus, they'll use no foreign gateways, internet gateways would be used, okay, for security reasons. And the domain name system would also be hosted in India. The websites have a name that is known as domain name basically. Clear? Plus, these satellites will also provide navigation services. Okay, because satellite-based internet, basically on internet, you use GPS also, navigation also. Now, GPS is an American navigation system. Okay, which these apps like Uber, Ola, Zomato, Swiggy use. Okay, that's why you are able to look or see where your rider is traveling. Clear? Now, India has said that these internet services should also provide a provision for Indian navigation system. Okay, GPS is American. Indian navigation system is Navik. So provide provision for Navik also. Clear? That's all. These are the guidelines. Further guidelines would be released once the situation develops further. Clear? And now let's move on to last news item, which is civil defense drills. So amid rising tensions between India and Pakistan following Pahalgam attacks, the center has directed all states and UTs to conduct mock drills and strengthen civil defense mechanisms across 244 districts. And these 244 districts are categorized as civil defense districts. Clear? Now, civil defense preparedness or these civil defense volunteers come from wardens, home guard, NCC, national service scheme, voluntaries, Nehru Yuva, many other areas, okay, and volunteer students also. Now the thing is, what are these 244 civil defense districts? Okay, what do we mean by civil defense districts? So these are districts demarcated by Ministry of Defense, which include towns and districts which the government designates for implementation of civil defense programs. So these are the districts designated by Ministry of Defense where civil defense programs or civil mock drills would be conducted. Okay. Now, on what basis these districts are called civil defense districts? Okay. They are designated so based on their vulnerability to attacks or their sensitive location like border or their proximity to critical infrastructure like nuclear power plants, electricity grid, major highways and all that. Okay. Now, there are in all 259 civil defense districts notified by Ministry of Home Affairs in 2010. Now, this entire process of civil defense comes under, I'm so sorry. This entire process of civil defense comes under Civil Defense Act of India. Okay, it was enacted in 1960s. So this Civil Defense Act ensures that in case there is an emergency, a war, aggression, external aggression, internal disturbance, Civil Defense Act would be activated, and Civil Defense Act gives government some powers to do certain things. For example, conducting civil defense mock drills, for example, taking control of some critical highways so traffic can be stopped on those highways and army trucks would take over. Government can also take over your vehicle for necessary reasons. This power is also given under Civil Defense Act. Clear? Basically, that is the case. All right. And that would be all. With that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But it would add more value if you do not forget to revise this lecture as well. So please do not forget to do that. And on that note, I'll be signing off with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.